Previously on 5 Points of Articulation.
But on the plus side, there's only one figure left to look at before Stiltman, Peter B. Parker. And I'm really excited about this one. I have a feeling I'm going to be impressed.
And you thought I was making you wait a long time for the Venom head swap video. Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation, where I review action figures and then articulate 5 points to help you decide if you want to add that figure to your collection. The 5 points I discuss are packaging, presentation, posability, playability, and price. I'm Jason, and if you enjoy my content, please like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube rigmarole. In this corner, the 2021 Marvel Legends Into the Spider-Verse Peter B. Parker, and in this corner, the new Peter B. Parker from the Marvel Legends Across the Spider-Verse wave. Which Peter B. is the better bang for your buck? Starting off with the packaging, and these two have been approached very, very differently. Into comes in that tried and true window box we know and love, and can't wait to get back, whereas Across comes on a blister card, almost like a retro figure. That said, it's been specifically designed to match the iconography of this movie, and clearly designed before they decided to rename the third movie Beyond the Spider-Verse. That's not to say that this box doesn't have movie-specific flair. We got the title logo on the front, key art on the side. Fun fact, the reason why I actually bought this figure at the time was because I dropped it in the store and cracked the bubble. And then on the back is more key art and a little bio. As a refresher, these were the other figures in the wave and were some of my earliest videos. All that being said, I appreciate just how movie-specific and special this feels. The figures look like they're stepping out of time portals. The Marvel Legends logo is glitching like in the movie, and on the back we can actually see the other characters in the wave, and not just a list. It's also worth noting that this particular figure is based on his look from Into the Spider-Verse. For our purposes though, I'm going to continue to call him Across. In general, I prefer a box because it's reusable, but these days they're unfortunately all windowless, so the blister card lets us see what we're getting, though I do think Hasbro also did this for some underhanded reasons we'll be talking about later. That said, based only on aesthetics and also creative effort for packaging, this round goes to Across. Moving on to presentation, an Into stands at about 6.5 inches, but Across stands closer to 6 1/4. I assume it's because he's barefoot and doesn't have that poofy hair. Into is a 100% new sculpt, whereas Across is only half new. In fact, it's more new than I thought. Pulling back the coat, and I assume that Hasbro reused the stomach from the original figure, but nope, it's definitely new and slightly more toned. It's also a lot glossier than his upper torso. Otherwise, the pants and ankles are the same, but whereas Into is rocking some fun mismatched shoes, Across goes out with his toes out. For on the top, and I absolutely adore this head sculpt, all of Peter B's personality has been translated beautifully into plastic. The one on Across isn't nearly as fancy, but it is what Spider-Man's mask looks like in the movie, so I can't really complain about the sculpt. As always though, I am bummed out by the lack of painted webs. The webs not being painted on this figure doesn't bother me as much because of how much of his torso is covered by his coat, although an argument could be made for when you swap out the head or hands. Still, this works fine for me. This, however, is a bit too much. I'll be revisiting this criticism during playability and price, but I'm really tired of something as simple as Spider-Man's webbing being considered a premium thing. That brings us back over to Into and his coat. They've done a really good job of sculpting it, and to Hasbro's credit, they did go in to paint the zipper and all the different gold buttons. I'm not trying to throw them a parade or anything, because it is something I feel that they should have done, but I also get the feeling that these days it's something that they would not have done. One thing I am very happy to report, however, is that both figures are pinless. While this sculpt is a faithful recreation of what Peter B looked like in that part of the film, it is let down by the lack of painted detail and totally eclipsed by all the extra sculpted and painted detail of this. For presentation, this round goes to Into. Moving on to posability, and these figures are basically the same, but with one big difference. From the top, and both of their heads are on ball joints and disc hinges. They can look up this high, which is great, and this far down, which is great. A little bit of tilt, and all the way around. Moving on down, and Into can raise his arm up just a little bit higher. Of course, both figures have bicep swivel, pinless double jointed elbows, and swivel hinge wrists. Moving to the middle though, and that's where we come to our major difference. Into the Spider-Verse has this bulky coat, which, while not a problem for forward articulation, completely hinders any kind of backwards. Because of that, Across clearly really has an edge. It's worth noting that both figures have a diaphragm joint and a ball waist. This allows for tilt and twist. Below the waist in both figures have ball jointed hips, the same ball jointed hips to be exact. Because of that, both figures can kick equally high, but once again, Intu's coat does get in the way compared to a cross, which again is the exact same sculpt otherwise. And because they're the same, they both have matching thigh cut, double jointed knee, boot cut rotation, and despite having different feet, ankles that can hinge and pivot. While the articulation scheme between these two figures is basically the same, the lack of coat really adds a lot of range. For posability, this round goes to a cross. Moving on to playability, and Intu comes with a cavalcade of accessories. See this oddly wide open hand? That's to hold this drink cup. But if you want him to do some more Spider-Man-y stuff, he has a pair of thwippies, a pair of fists, and an alternate partially masked head. It's unfortunate that one has a 5 o'clock shadow and the other doesn't, but I do think this is a cool addition, and I appreciate how they went in and added that little sliver of hair on the sides. Definitely something they could have skipped and then not had to paint. On the subject of heads, Intu also comes with the head of the Stilt Man. Little messy around the mouth hole, but hey, I can finally complete that Build-A-Figure. As for a cross, he comes pre-loaded with the fists. He also comes with the thwippies, and that's it. I get that because they're in blister cards, there's no Build-A-Figure, but they couldn't have thrown in an extra head like this one? Or some wall-crawling hands that would have been backwards compatible with this guy? I know they had to give him a new upper half and new feet, but there was nothing left in the budget for anything else? Again, it's not like it went to paint. I'll be revisiting this in the next category, but for now I gotta say that this has got me pretty let down, especially compared to what a standout this is. But playability is more than an abundance of accessories or lack thereof. It's also about how well your figures play with others. First up, and here we have the cheapy one we looked at a few months ago, and just because the proportions are similar, here we have an older one by Toy Biz which somehow managed to paint its webs. That said, for some standard Marvel Legends Spider-Man figures, and here we have Pizza Spidey, here's the retro version which was also on a blister card but managed to have webs, the slightly updated Renew Your Vows 2-pack version, and the one from the Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends 3-pack. For a popular Peter Parker look, you do see a couple of quick glimpses of in the new movie, and here's the video game version. And although Japanese Spider-Man does not appear in Across the Spider-Verse, I do hear he's supposed to be in the third one, so, well, here you go. Moving over to Miles Morales, and here we have the Into the Spider-Verse version. Here's the $11 version of Across that we looked at, looking like an alien, and the basic Miles that came with Carnage. For my favorite Miles, however, and here's the Gamerverse version. For a couple of Gwens, and here we have the Into the Spider-Verse version, which I still like a lot, and the budget version that shows off her new Converse and web lines. The Marvel Legends Into the Spider-Verse Gwen came with Spider-Ham as an accessory, as did Spider-Man Noir, which treated him like a 2-pack and bumped up the price. That said, if you don't want to spring for the movie version, here they are with the comic one. Rounding out my Into the Spider-Verse collection, and here we have the Prowler. Shifting away from Into the Spider-Verse and squarely into Across, and here we have the cheapy version of Spider-Man 2099. These scale surprisingly better than I expected, and while I don't have the movie version yet, here's the comic book version of Spider-Punk. Definitely one of the breakout characters from Across the Spider-Verse. And here we have Scarlet Spider, which, as is honestly perfect for your Spider-Verse collection. If you haven't seen the movie yet, you'll understand. For a very important supporting character in Peter's life, of course, is Mary Jane, and here we have Peter Parker himself. If you're hoping for a head swap, unfortunately the ball joints do not match. I've already shown off Pizza Spidey, but here they are with the Spectacular Spider-Man, and as always, here they are with Stealth Iron Man. What? He's a variant. You know, from the Stealth Iron Man verse. When I say that playability is more than accessories, I absolutely mean it. Just not so much this time. For playability, this round goes to Intu. This leaves us with nothing left to discuss but the price. Even with all its new sculpting and accessories, when Intu came out in 2021, it retailed for only $20. Across, by contrast, is only half new, comes with next to nothing, and costs $24.99. In general, I do enjoy the blister carded figures, though historically they are used as an excuse to cheap out on accessories. With the exception of Spiral anyway, which honestly might be the best Marvel Legends figure ever. Hasbro also trots them out when there's a lot of figures in the wave with new sculpts. Near as I can tell, Peter B's the only one in the entire Across the Spider-Verse wave that has any reuse at all, and even then it's only half the figure. Either way, it's hard to not see them as a loophole for Hasbro to be cheap, and let's be honest, they are anything but cheap. The wild part is that looking around online, the original is still widely available and only for $25 also. So yeah, for the same $25 as this, you can also get all all of this. For price, this round goes to Into, who wins the battle 3-2. And hey, now that I've reviewed all the characters from the Into the Spider-Verse wave, I can finally take a look at that Stilt Man Build-A-Figure. Yeah, I'll get right on that. If you like this video, check out one of these. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again real soon, but until then, play nice and have fun.